Alright, we are live with kind of the first official non-test stream that I'm doing for Malts and Meeples. I am Petter, so thank you for joining me. Hope that it is a fun stream. It's been a little bit of time since I played Marvel Champions, so I'm going to try and get all the rules right that I can, but if I mess something up, we're just going to kind of go with the flow and get it figured out as we go. I do remember how to play, it's just been a little bit. So, let's basically get into this. A little bit of housekeeping first, as always. I have a beer I'm drinking. Today's beer because I have everything flipped is a Kentucky Coffee Barrel Stout. I'm very excited for this one. Come on, come on, come on. There we are. And let's have a sip. That is good. It's less coffee flavored than I kind of thought it was going to be. It's definitely enjoyable. Darker beer. Not like everything about this kind of implies that it should be this really big tasting beer, and it's just kind of a normal stout. Not bad, but nothing super standout. So let's get into this game. Yeah, I definitely will not complain about drinking that, but I'm also not sure that I would go out of my way to get that again. So in this game, I am playing as Peter Parker, who is taking on Rhino. I am literally playing the starting deck setup just because, kind of as a refresher to myself, but also a way that I can show off the game and kind of explain what you're going to be doing right out of the box. So, Peter Parker has a total of, I need some tokens here. Uh, 10 hit points and hand size of 6. Drop a bunch of tokens off here. This starts with one threat, one per player, and Peter Parker, obviously, Spider-Man on the other side. We're taking, we're going up against Rhino. Rhino is a whole lot more about attacking than he is about scheming. So when I'm on the Peter Parker side, because I'm in my alter ego side and people don't know who Peter Parker is, Rhino's going to scheme. He's going to scheme for his break-in. Now, when I flip over to the Spider-Man side, obviously Spider-Man is going to be the bigger threat. My hand size goes down by 1, hit points don't change, and Rhino is going to be attacking me. So I have a choice kind of which side I want to be on, because sometimes I'm not going to be able to take another hit. Like if my hit points are low enough, I'm going to want to be on the Peter Parker side so that he can scheme, and so that I can use the recovery ability. But there are other times where I'm just going to want to be attacking. So this is Rhino's scheme deck. We will go through that towards the end of the turn, but as Peter Parker, I get a start first. And so I have my hands of cards here. And I have I have an upgrade, I have an event, which is something that I can use. I have a few support items and allies I can put into play. It's kind of hard to see, but in the bottom corners, bottom left corner, they have resources they generate. Upper left corner is their cost. So I'm looking to use them to the best of my ability to kind of get what I want played out, but not too expensive. So I want to look at what I have. I have a couple of allies that I can put in play. I have Nick Fury and Jessica Jones. Both of them are solid characters. They both have 3 health. I'm probably going to go with Fury because Fury is just a really good card. However, he costs 4, which means I have to then discard 4 cards to get Nick Fury into play. When he comes into play, I can either remove 2 threat, but there's only 1 there, so it's not that great. I could draw 3 cards, or I could deal 4 damage. Now, dealing 4 damage is a fair amount, but I'm actually going to use it to draw 3 cards. Those cards are going to be useful, especially because I'm then going to use Fury to attack for 2. So that I'm hitting Rhino, just 2 damage. Fury, because there's this little star symbol, you can kind of see below it, takes the damage. Now this would be a bigger deal, except for the fact that Fury is going to leave at the end of the turn. So I kind of have some plans for him. I'm going to flip Spider-Man over to the Spider-Man side, and let me see if there's anything else I want to drop into play here. I don't. I want to keep that one in my hand. That's good. I'm going to use these 2 to actually put Black Cat in. Forced response. After you play Black Cat, discard the top 2 cards of your deck. Each card with a printed symbol of a resource. Discarded that way, I put into my hand. So I get 1 of them into my hand, which is fine. I'm not sure I'm going to use it right now. And then I'm going to use her to attack as well. Again, she has one of the symbols, so she takes the damage. Now she only has 2 health, so if I attack again, we're going to have more damage. And whoa, I had a whole bunch of frames skipped there, it looks like, so hopefully it hasn't been too bad. If there are issues with what it looks like, please let me know. So now we are going to use Spider-Man to attack for 2 as well. We're just going after Rhino fast here. Let's kind of take him down. The scheme's not too bad at this point, so I could have thwarted for 1, but there wasn't that much reason to. I'm going to leave these 2 cards in my hand that I have down here, and that's the end of the hero turn. So at the end of the hero turn, everything untaps. Then I dropped my hand size, which is 5 cards. So I had 2 in my hand, which means that I got rid of a few. Let me just double check something here. Sorry. Slightly worried about the amount of frames it says it's skipping. So I'm going to check this on my phone quick and make sure that it looks all right. It's always disconcerting when you see that frames have been skipped. So that looks good to me, which is what I'm here for. It looks like we've had a few concerns about stuff. So I may have to mess around in the future with the system that I'm running, but we're still going through all this. So if we start out with Rhino. Rhino always, or the scheme always is going to increase by what it says here, 1 per player. Then Rhino would either scheme or attack. Because I'm in Spider-Man form, he's going to attack. So I take the top card, I flip it, and the symbols down here in the bottom corner bottom right are what I use to determine the strength of Rhino's attack. So 2 plus his attack of 2, which is 4, but I'm going to declare a block. I guess technically I would have done that beforehand with Fury. Why? Because Fury is going to leave at the end of my turn. So Fury blocks it. He's gone. I'll slide this over. And then we have an encounter. Oh, fun. We have a side scheme which gives us basically this has crowd control. Panic civilians crowd the area. It is difficult to confront Rhino without putting them at risk. Get the people to safety. So it comes in with 2 scheme on it, and basically we have to deal with that scheme. I'm keeping an eye on the frames because, man, that is really disconcerting. So hopefully this is going well. May have to tweak some settings, something at some point in time, so I apologize for the fact that I just kind of talk about that midstream. So now I have a hand of 5 cards, and I can use a number of different things. So I have a couple of upgrades. I have a couple of events, and I have a surveillance team. I'm going to spend those two to get the surveillance team into play. They come in with 3 counters on them, and basically those counters are going to... Don't need the first player marker. Those counters are going to allow me to remove threat. So I'm going to do that right now. I want to remove a threat from there. I'm eventually going to have to deal with the threat on break-in, because if it hits 7 threat, that means that I'm done. So that is a concern. I keep saying threat. 7 scheming. So it's scheme, or I think they scream to place threat to it. I don't want to use Black Cat simply because she's going to be useful for blocking Rhino. So instead, I'm going to remove the last one from crowd control. Goes over here. And I'm going to keep these 2 cards in my hand. So everybody untaps. Technically this tapped when I used it. Everything unexhausts. So I always say tapped. It is unexhausts because of the rights that Wizards of the Coast has to the term tapped, which means it only applies to Magic the Gathering. And I used to play a lot of Magic the Gathering. Next, we then have Rhino, who's gonna scheme. Automatically gets one on there. Then he's going to attack. I will block with Black Cat. So, the card was Sandman. He adds 2, so 4 attack. She has 1 health left, so she is taken out. But that means I don't have to fight Sandman. He was just used to augment Rhino's attack. I flip the next card, Stampede. When revealed, on the hero side, Rhino attacks you. If a character is damaged by this attack, the character is stunned. So Rhino attacks for 2, plus an additional 2. So 4. And technically, I would have played this event. Or I guess I do now. Because it's an interrupt. When you would take any amount of damage from an attack, prevent all that damage with backflip. It's a 0-cost card, which is great because I didn't have to spend any resources. However, now I'm also down a card from my hand for my turn. So Rhino's getting up there. I'm going to use these 2, place another 3 there, which I'm immediately going to spend 1 from each of them to remove 2 scheme. And then I'm going to attack Rhino for 2. Now this is where it's getting interesting though, because I don't have an ally to block for me. So I might have to block for myself, which then I would use my defense to subtract whatever from Rhino's attack to see if I take any damage. Or I could just take the damage. But obviously that can be risky at times because he can stun. So I draw back up to my hand size of 5. Alright, so that's an interesting hand there. And Rhino starts by scheming. Then he attacks and let's see, I haven't found any of the cards yet that have a little star symbol on them that would augment stuff. So technically before I flip that card I would decide if I'm going to block or not. I'm not going to block simply because I'm at full health. I want to be able to attack next turn. Because you don't unexhaust after the villain phase. So I'm down to 8 health. We have Rhino who has done that. Now I get one of these. When revealed, you are confused. If you're already confused, this card gains Surge. Surge basically means draw another card. Confused means the next time a character would thwart or scheme, discard this status card instead. So like if I wanted to use Spider-Man to get rid of that scheme, I would have to discard this card first. Fortunately, that's not going to be my plan. So, to start my turn, going to start with Avengers Mansion. That is a 4-cost card, so fairly high, except I happen to draw in to these 2 cards. You can see they don't do anything except be double resources, so I'm able to play that really easily. I exhaust both of these, including removing the last counter from the 1 surveillance team to get rid of the last 2 scheme. We're in a pretty good spot here in terms of scheme, but I still have to get Rhino down 7 health. Then I can exhaust Avengers Mansion to draw a card. I don't have the ability to use that card right now, which is kind of a shame. Then I'm going to have Spider-Man attack. He attacks for 2, but he's still confused because that effect only goes away when you are going to thwart on a scheme. End of my turn, I draw back up, and yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Rhino schemes, always goes up by 1 because of that. He's going to attack me. I have no one here to block with. I'm not going to block with Spider-Man. And this has a +1, so it's going to be 3 damage. I'm going to take that. I'm down to 5, so I'm at half my health. But it's not that bad. Then I flip this next one. Attached to Rhino. Forced interrupt. When any amount of damage be dealt to Rhino, place it here instead. Then, if there is at least 5 damage here, discard his armored suit. So basically, he has an additional 5 health, and I have to go through that first. You know what? I'm going to use 3 cards to get Mockingbird into play. Mockingbird has a response, which is after she enters play, I get to place a stunned token on him. That means the next time he would attack, he discards that instead. Still flips a card for his attack, but I won't take any damage from it no matter what. Then I'm going to attack. She has a star underneath that. 1 damage. Both of them combined 3 damage to him. He is down to 2 damage. So, nope. He's at 5 health, but the suit has taken 3 damage. So, now we flip this back this way. I draw back up to my 5. And man, I'm really waiting on a couple of cards in here. And then Rhino is going to attack. I'm not going to block with anybody because this attack is going to do no damage, but he's no longer stunned. Then we flip this and it says Rhino attacks. If the character is damaged by this attack, the character is stunned. We're going to have Mockingbird block for me, dealing 3 damage to her. It's enough to take her out. But she did what I needed, which was soak that damage. Alright. Now, since we've done everything for Rhino, we're back to my turn. Do we have Rhino scheme that time? I do not remember. I also know I did not use surveillance team last time, so we'll say I'm pretty sure I didn't have him scheme. So we'll just make it a wash and use that immediately. We're going to stick Daredevil into play. Costs 4, fairly expensive, but after Daredevil thwarts, I deal 1 damage to the enemy. Spider-Man is not good at thwarting right now because he still is confused, so Spider-Man is going to attack for 2, removing that pesky suit of armor, and then we're going to have Daredevil thwart for 2. There's only 1 on there, but he deals a damage because of that. And I'm going to draw a card. Alright, not much there. So then we unexhaust. I draw back up. And interesting. I'm pretty sure I have yet to see one of the 2 cards I'm really hoping for, and they must be in here still. Next, we have Rhino. He's going to attack. I'm not going to declare any blockers. And there's no symbol down there, so it's just 2 damage. I'm going to take the 2. Like I said, I hadn't declared any blockers, so I really couldn't have dealt with it in much. Ooh. Breaking and taken. So comes in with 3 threat and means that from here on out I'm going to have to be drawing another one of these unless I can deal with that. Fortunately, I think I can deal with that, but I want to figure out how I want to do this. Okay, so I'm going to spend Power of Justice, which allows me, would normally only give me 1 kind of resource to use. However, because I'm using it to pay for a Justice card, a yellow card, literally called for Justice, I can thwart, which means I can thwart up to 3, which allows me to take care of that immediately. I'm going to use Avengers Mansion to draw a card. Then, let's see. There is nothing I want to play right now. So we're going to have I definitely know there should be 1. Nope, there should be 1 on there. However, I'm going to have both of them attack because that will do 4 damage. So I've taken out Rhino, right? Well, basically in every good comic, that's not the case. So now I have to take out Rhino again. He's come back. Like, I've just stopped him, but not defeated him. And he hits harder. And I have to reveal and put into play Breaking and Taken, which I just got rid of. So, do I have anything I can do here? Not really. So I unexhaust, draw up, and now I have to deal with Rhino. So I don't forget, we had break-in. This one does not have an up arrow on it, so nothing increases on it. Rhino is going to attack. I'm going to block with... No, I'm not going to block, actually. Rhino will attack base 3, 4, and I'm going to play backflip to prevent all the damage. I've been holding on to that card for quite a while, actually, waiting for the right time to do that. The reason I held off on it is because I could have blocked with Daredevil, But I can't thwart yet with Spider-Man, so having somebody who can thwart is going to be useful. Then I get not one, but two. Oh, great. So we're coming in for another Rhino attack. This time I will block with Daredevil. Mainly because I didn't want him, Spider-Man, stunned as well as confused. Then this card's out, so that means I deal an extra encounter card to myself. False alarm. So if I'm confused, this card gains Surge, which means I draw the next one, attached to Rhino. Oh my goodness. This is not going well. So he's at 6 attack. Alright. I guess we'll see what happens here. So the first thing I'm going to do is use Avengers Mansion to draw a card. I got the card that I've been looking for quite a while. It is a hero action called Swinging Web Kick. The important thing to note on Swinging Web Kick is it deals 8 damage. Just like that. So Rhino's at 7 total. I have 1 card left in my hand, and I'm confused. I could swing for 2 damage, but that's not super useful at this point. Instead, I'm going to flip over to the Peter Parker side, where I have an ability called Recover. I'm going to use that ability on Parker / Spider-Man to get back to 6. Then, that's going to be my turn. So I get 4 cards. I'm almost out here. And let's see what happens with Rhino here. So it automatically gets 1. And then Rhino schemes for 1 more. Okay, we're at 4. This does not increase still. So first thing we have is Shadows of the Past. Reveal your set-aside Nemesis minion and put it into play engaged with you. So I now have Vulture, who's basically going to be attacking me. Reveal your set-aside Nemesis side scheme and put it into play. I do not remember what that symbol means, and these get shuffled into the deck. Oof, that's brutal. I still have an additional card to go. Oh, okay. That means that in the future, now with this side scheme here, Rhino will automatically be putting 2 on there. So we're not in a great spot right now. Oh, but I did forget to do something. In Peter Parker form, my hand size is 6. This will be fairly important. So then, I still have 1 more card to go. Flip this over. Discard 1 card at random from each player's hand. Then place 1 threat on the main scheme for each different resource discarded this way. That could have been really bad in a 3-4 player game, because it's very possible you could have a wide variety of different options. So I discard 1. It's another Swinging Web Kick. So I could use Avengers Mansion right here. Oh, sorry. Vulture needs to attack me for 3. Oh, excuse me, he does not attack for 3 because I am in my my alter ego, but I do get 1 more on there. So that's rough. So, back to Peter Parker's turn. Shadows of the Past goes into there. However, this is where I'm kind of in a good spot, and it's as much as I was hoping other cards would show up faster. I discard 3 to use the hero event, Swinging Web Kick. So if you remember Swinging Web Kick from last time, that is 8 damage. So 8 damage to Rhino. He is at 0. Now, that is great because I was in a really kind of rough spot there. I wasn't able to remove any of that scheming. So, yeah, had I not drawn that card, I probably would have been in a very, very rough spot. So hopefully, I'm going to try making some adjustments for my upcoming stream. Hopefully this worked well, and hopefully you kind of just enjoyed, like, this is the very basic gameplay. This is what they use to teach you Marvel Champions out of the box. Now, there are plenty more things that you can have for Marvel Champions. This is the most recent scenario pack, as they call it, which has the Once and Future Kang, or Kang the Conqueror, in it. I haven't played with that one yet. I haven't actually played with much out of my own set. I have a full box almost, plus I have the Rise of Red Skull expansion, but it just hasn't hit the table a ton recently. But now that it is hitting the table again, and I always have enjoyed this. I love kind of the back and forth feel of figuring out when you have to flip between your different sides. Rhino in this form is very, fairly easy. Like I said, I haven't played a ton. I have played Spider-Man vs. Rhino, I think, 4 times now, and I am at 500, so I've won twice and I've lost twice. Some of that was just me learning the game, and I think that's one of the nice things about it. You always, or at least I've always been able to tell when playing, kind of when it's like, oh, this is when I should have flipped and I didn't. Now that I know, I can go back and correct that mistake, and I've definitely found that that's really how it has worked well for me. I correct the mistakes, and all of a sudden it makes a whole lot more sense, or I get much closer. So it's a really fun game, and there is a lot that you can play with. And like, Vulture is Spider-Man's nemesis. Vulture is not in with any set, anything else. He's not part of Rhino stuff or anything else. He is just for Spider-Man, and whenever you hit that Shadow of the Past card, and there will be a Shadow of the Past card, you are going to pull in their specific nemesis. Fortunately, you don't have to take out that specific nemesis first in order to win the game. You are just worried about taking out the big bad. So that, I'm going to spend a little bit of time wrapping up tonight. I have a whole bunch of things to plug, just that I do. Obviously, there's this YouTube channel, Malts and Meeples. If you're enjoying this content, please subscribe. click that bell for notifications for when we go live. My hope is it's going to be 7:30 every Wednesday for some gaming of some sort. Might be more Marvel Champions. I have Marvel United sitting over here, and a whole bunch of other games that I can play solo. So we'll see what I get to the table. If you want more content, Marvel-related content in particular, I have a podcast called 10 Minute Marvel. That podcast comes out every Tuesday. Technically Tuesday 1 a.m. Central Time is when the podcast comes out, and it is Marvel topics and news in 10 minutes or less. Generally, I would say most episodes are around 9 minutes. There is a fair amount of MCU news even now, even though we haven't had any movies or shows yet. For over a year at this point, nothing new Marvel has really come out. Again, MCU-wise. Obviously, comic books, for the most part, have been coming out during all of that time. And then, finally, I run a website called nerdologists.com, and I'm putting up articles or two every single day of the week. On Wednesdays, I always do an article that's a back or brick about some board game on Kickstarter, whether or not I back it, and my thoughts on that game, the page that they have, and what interests me and what doesn't, what worries me. I also talk about RPGs, tons of board game content, obviously. I just finished up my top 100 list, top 100 favorite board games, earlier this week, so you can check that out. And yeah, a lot of D&D stuff, reviews of movies, books, TV shows, things like that, top 10 lists. So if you're interested in all things nerdy, I cover a lot of them over on that site. But with that, bottoms up.